Lascaris and welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to be doing a 15-minute gourmet dish, and today it's going to be a rosemary buttered filet with broccolini on the side. So to start off with, we're going to take some of our fillet. You normally get fillet in a half kilo or so. Take off as much of the sinew as you can because it's not really great to eat. As you can see, I've already done it, and then cut it into medallion slices. But first, we're actually going to make our butter rosemary. So what we do is we've got about 30 grams of butter that we're going to put into a bowl, like that. Have it quite softened, like room temperature. Today's probably the coldest day of the year that we have in Franschhoek, so I've cheated a little bit and made it a bit warmer than. I made it a little warmer. There we go, got that word out. I think my mouth is so cold and the words aren't coming out properly. So let's try. Here we go. So I've just picked some lovely thyme from my garden. I must say it's one of the lovely things about living on a farm is being able to have fresh produce. So it's quite easy with thyme. I just kind of run my fingers over the stalk and you can get some of the thyme off. No fancy chopping needed here. There we go. I've just got to keep an eye on my cat. She's walking over some of my food. So if I have to suddenly squeal, you'll know why, because Loxie has decided to visit. But let me concentrate on what I'm doing. We're going to need to do about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of the thyme. There we go. And I'm just going to add that straight into my butter. And then I'm going to take some of the rosemary. I tried to pick some rosemary that didn't have flowers on it. But there we go, like that. And then I'm going to just roughly chop it up. Sometimes I like to use a mezzaluna because I'm not the world's fastest chopper. But generally if you go like this and sort of swing your knife around, you get quite a good effect there. And you can look quite professional, like those fancy chefs that you see. There we go, job done. That's about 10 grams, and we're going to put that into our butter. And then what you need to do is just really give it a bit of a mush together, like that. So all you want to do is just get the butter and the herbs blended together. There we go. Just needs a little bit of arm work, like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually put this into some Glad wrap, put it into a little ball, and then we're going to pop it into the fridge until we're ready, just to harden it up a bit. I know it seems strange, we've now softened it and now we're hardening it, but there you go. It's what one does when one cooks. Okay, so I'm going to take a little piece of Glad wrap, like that. I know Glad wrap, you know, we're trying to use it less and less. I even got to the stage where I thought I'd be very smart and try and reuse Glad wrap, and I had it stuck on my walls. It didn't really work, so we try and use it to its minimum. But there we go, like that. You know, trying to be eco-friendly and all of that, single-use plastics, but we try our best here. So there we go. And now I'm just going to quickly roll that into a little ball, like so. Almost like a log shape, you know, there you go. Perfect. And I'm going to pop that into the fridge so that I can just harden up a little bit for us. And there we go. Now we're ready to start on our fillet. So I've got going here, I've got a pan that we're going to heat up. I think heat it up to quite high because you really want to sear your steaks. You don't want them to sort of take forever. I've got some olive oil. This is olive oil that's been pressed from olives from the farm, so I'm so excited always about using it. Generously pour it in your pan. I do often use a non-stick pan, but generally I like to just add a touch of oil to it. It kind of gives the steak a nice golden color. We're going to wait for that to heat up a little bit, and then we can put our steaks on. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll season our steak. Just put it onto the board. As I said, nice big medallions. Oh, and there we go. The carnivores in the family are going to love this. There we go. Give it a good seasoning. Don't be shy with the pepper because it almost also forms a crust and adds extra flavor. There you go. Give it a good grind. This is quite a stiff grinder, so I feel like I'm getting a bit of an arm workout here. There we go. And a little bit of coarse salt. There we go. Sprinkle that over. I always tend to under salt my food. I always believe that people can add extra salt if they like, but once something is over salted, there's not much you can do about it. Okay, let's see how our pan is doing. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's just take our board there, and we're going to pop this into the pan. Don't know if you can hear that sizzle that we're getting because the pan's nice and hot. And we're going to sear it on all sides so we get a lovely brown color happening here. And then what we'll do is we'll let the steak rest. It's very important to let steak rest. Don't take it and cut it immediately. What you need to do is when it's, the real reason why you actually want it to rest is because you want all the juices to come back into the steak. You've now got it all excited and things are happening there with the heat. You need everything to just come back down. Otherwise, haven't you noticed, I don't know if you've ever seen that, you've taken a piece of meat, you've cut it immediately, and all the liquid runs out. And then you wonder why your steak is tough. If you let it rest for 10 minutes, keep it warm. Some people say 5 minutes. I tend to let it rest for a little bit longer than that, and you'll be surprised at the difference. So let's see. We're going to let this cook for a while. And you just have to leave it. One of the other things that I found with cooking is not to mix things too much. I have that tendency to always just want to get stuck in there and mix and things like that. But when it comes to steak, you've got to let it sit there because you want to get that crisp outside layer. So Chantal, don't go and play with it. We'll wait and see what it looks like. So the meat has been cooking on the stove. I've browned it on all sides. You generally cook it to your liking. I prefer to actually have mine medium rare, but some people like it a little darker than that. So then you just cook it according to the way you know how most people would like it. As you can see, I've got it lovely and brown, and we've done it on all sides. So now it's just a matter of taking it off. I'm putting it into a bowl because now we have to let it rest. So we do that. And considering that I don't like washing dishes, and I know no one else does either, we're actually going to use the same pan. So I'm just going to pop this here while I cover the meat, because you don't really want the meat to get cold. So I find if I just take another plate, a simple plate like that, put it on top, put it to the side, and let it rest while I continue with what I need to do. So I just take a paper cloth, I've switched it off, and you just have to give it a little wipe. Don't have to take too much off because you don't want to waste all those nice juices. There we go. And now we're ready for our broccolini. Let's just put that there. Now, often when you get the broccolini, they've got quite thick stems, so that's the part that can actually be quite woody. So what I tend to do is just chop it off, make it a bit thinner. Just slice it down so it doesn't actually get so chewy. It's not really that nice. There we go, that one's nice and thin, so I don't actually need to do anything to it. This one's starting to look a bit woody, so we just chop it off like so. There we go. These are actually also quite thin, so I can use them as I go. I generally like to say about 3 or 4 little stems per person, which should be enough. If you want to do more, feel free to do so. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pan back on. It's still quite warm, and we're actually just going to char grill these, get a bit of color on it. We don't want to cook it for too long, because otherwise, who wants wilted, yucky broccoli? I certainly don't. So we just pop it into the pan, just like so. Give it a bit of seasoning. Again, a little bit of pepper. Steak and pepper, you couldn't think of anything better. It's a match made in heaven. So I'm kind of generous with my broccoli at the same time. And then a bit of salt for flavoring, like that. Just putting it in the pan so that each piece can actually touch the surface. If you're lucky and you've got a griddle pan, then feel free to use that. You get those lovely lines, griddle lines. But if not, I've just shown it in a normal pan. There's nothing wrong with using it like that. So I'm just going to, again, good old olive oil, just a drizzle of it. And we let it, oh, you can hear that sizzling again. I like to use olive oil. It's a very healthy oil. Just bear in mind that if you are frying and you're deep frying, don't use olive oil because it boils or heats up at a much lower temperature. So for frying, it's not ideal. Then rather go and use your vegetable oils. It's much healthier but for this sort of cooking, olive oil is fine. The Mediterranean people have been doing it for centuries, so I think I can carry on doing it myself. There we go. We just want to get a bit of colour on our broccolini. I must admit, when I was growing up, I'd never heard of broccolini, but it seems nowadays all these interesting vegetables are easily accessible, so let's use them. If not, why not? There we go. I'm just going to give that a bit of a blackening. Again, Chantal, don't move it too much because otherwise it doesn't brown properly. So we'll give that a minute or two. Don't forget your steak is resting. You've got your butter in the fridge. Now with that butter, you can also add garlic if you like. Not everybody likes garlic, so I've put it in as an optional. You can see when I started making it, I didn't add it. But if you do want to put it in, feel free to do so. You can also even make one that's got garlic in it and maybe one that doesn't, and your guests can choose if you want to be that fancy with them. Also, what we're going to do as the sort of finishing touch, I'm going to put some smoked mussels on top of the steaks. We'll also take some lemons, again off my tree. It's a bit of a small one, this one, but anyway, we've got lots of little ones, so I shouldn't be running out of lemon juice. We'll keep that. We're going to give this another little turn. Oh, it's lovely and dark. We're getting our sizzle going here. Just one more turn over and our broccoli is ready to go. Good. I'm going to switch this off and we're going to be ready to plate. Okay, now it's time for plating. I've taken out my butter log from the fridge. It's a lot harder now. Now comes the skill of trying to take the glad wrap off because it sticks to everything. There we go. We've got ourselves a nice looking log here. Oops, sticking to my fingers. I'm just going to cut this into rounds because we can just put one onto each piece of steak. There we go. Kind of squeeze it back into shape. No one will know any better. So as you squeeze down, it tends to move if it's not cold enough, and that's why we put it into the fridge. There you go. Isn't that looking lovely? You've got the lovely fresh thyme and rosemary coming through. There we go. Looking good. Okay, and now let's go and get our broccoli. I need to find my tongs. Tongs work really, really well here because you don't want to be stabbing into it. As you can see, the broccoli is lovely and charred on the edges, but it's still got a bit of crunch. As we said, we don't want to have sort of wilted, icky broccoli. I mean, I think that's every child's absolute nightmare, sitting with broccoli that they have to sort of digest and it's all been mushed and revolting. Kind of upping the game here. I kind of think these also look a bit like little trees. Yeah, they look just like trees. I love that. I'm going to put these around the plate and then I'm going to put the steak in the middle. But you know, I'm putting this on a platter, but you might want to serve it on individual plates. It's pretty much up to you. Also, what's good when you're working with the steak is don't pierce it. Because again, the same thing is like when you're trying to let the meat rest. If you pierce it, you're allowing all those juices to run out and you're going to get yourself a nice tough piece of steak, not what we want to be serving. So I'm just going to put our medallions. I've cut them into nice medallions so they're the perfect size to give to people. Men will probably want 2 and the women will just want 1, I'm sure. Or if you're like me who loves food, I'll also take 2, but we won't go there right now. Okay, now we're going to just pop our little bits of butter onto the steaks, like that. Here we go. Oops, looking good. Sorry about that, stuck to my nails. There we go. And that butter will slowly melt as the steak heats up. Then finally, as I said, we're going to have some smoked oysters. They're actually really easily available nowadays. You wouldn't think so, but you can get them in most supermarkets. I kind of say with my cooking, if I can't find it at the Franschhoek local supermarket, it doesn't get made. I've got to make, I like easily accessible, simple foods. There we go, and just to finish it off, as you know, I love a bit of color. So we're going to just put around a few tomatoes that we've cut up, and of course we need some lemon, like that, and we're just going to cut one more lemon wedge, like so. Perfect, and we are ready to serve. Let's have a look there. There we go. This is our butter rosemary fillet with a touch of oyster.